So my students that are coming to my class, the beginners, they are just absolutely wonderful to teach, and I love the excitement, and they're stepping into the world of the absolute unknown. And these are typical things that I pick up that I feel I need to share with you. When you start your sewing journey, I really feel that don't overspend on sewing machines and overlockers. Like, a lot of my students will come in and they've bought this very expensive embroidery machine that's got all these stitches, and this machine almost costs the same as a small car. And I'll say to them, you know, are you going to use it as a business? How much sewing are you going to be doing? Do you really need such an expensive advanced sewing machine? You don't need to have such expensive machine. Something maybe an entry level, or something but more than an entry level, should be sufficient. I will mention some sewing machines and overlockers in the description box below. I find is that when I suggest for our next sewing project what fabrics to get, and I'm very precise about what fabrics that they need to, you know, make the garment in, or their next project. And I know what it's like. You go into the fabric store and you get so excited. You go, oh my God, I got to have this. And you end up and you buy a fabric, okay, because you just love it so much, but you don't know much about fabrics yet. You're still a beginner. And you bring the fabric to the class, and it's completely the wrong material. So you cannot actually make the garment in this material, because yes, different materials fall differently, and different thicknesses and thinness of fabric can give you a different look in your actual garment. Like, for instance, if you want to make a very soft flowing kind of A-line skirt, and you choose a very hard crisp skirt, you're going to have a complete different look. Or let's say you've got a pattern to make, you know, a very soft sort of fitted jacket, and you come along with a very thick wool fabric or a very thick denim fabric. It's going to change the fit completely. Even the size is going to change, because the fabric is so much thicker and stiffer. So when you are looking at fabric to purchase for a new garment that you're going to be making for your sewing project, is to perhaps look at the suggested fabric behind the pattern and kind of follow those instructions and suggestions until you're more confident to choose something else. So I'm looking at my notes. The other thing is, like I always suggest to my students, is that don't go and buy these very lavish, expensive fabrics. Rather look at something less expensive, you know, just to start off with your sewing, to build up your confidence. Rather use, you know, more inexpensive fabrics, because you're going to make mistakes. You're going to be unpicking. So rather get confidence in your sewing with something less expensive, and you can always progress into something more lavish and more designerish as your confidence grows with you. All right, so very, very important is that when you are tracing off the pattern onto a sheet of paper, is to mark all your notches, all the grain lines, all the information onto your traced off pattern. Or if it's going to do directly onto your fabric from the commercial pattern, is to make sure that you nip all the notches, mark all the circles, any information that is on your pattern, to actually mark that onto your fabric. With its darts, make sure you put your pin in the dart points, slit openings, any sort of information. It's very important to put that in. So when you lift your pattern and now you're going to start sewing, that all your indication, all your marks are actually on your fabric, to make it go a lot smoother, a lot quicker. So you don't have to keep going back to your pattern, laying the fabric open, looking for that pattern piece, putting it back, trying to position to get that point in again. So that is so important, to keep all your notches and marks. The other thing is, it's very important to, when you put your pattern onto your fabric, is to measure your grain lines. I'm sure you've bought garments in the shops where you try on a pair of trousers or a jacket, and the garment is like twisting and pulling. Believe me, it was cut off grain, and it's so uncomfortable. It doesn't look right, and you don't want to have garments like that, because your garments are going to look professional, they're going to look good, and you're going to be so confident in wearing your garments because you've used the correct grain line. Another thing is, when you open up your commercial pattern, it will give you some guidance of, you know, sewing instructions. If it tells you to do a stay stitch, don't skip that. That is very important, to do a stay stitch, because it's helping the garment to stay more structured and to keep that measurement. So when you put the other part of another section of the garment together, they're not going to stretch. That you're going to have a perfect fit when you are joining your garment pieces together because you actually did your stay stitch. So if you like this, please give me a thumbs up, and I invite you to subscribe and to share my channel to help me grow so I can share more information with you and absolutely help your journey in your sewing for yourself or into business. This is Tania Sutherland. Thank you so much. Is to press. It's so important to press all your seams. So as you're busy, sewing your garment and you've done a couple of seams, take it back to your pressing table and press it. A good idea is to keep your pressing table quite close to you and iron quite close to your pressing cloth. I've got a few videos, I'll put some links below, showing you how to press your garments, what equipment you need for pressing to make it more professional, and I promise you your garments will look so much better, and people are going to start saying to you, wow, where did you buy that? And it's so nice to say, I made it myself, with absolute pride. Another thing is, I do tell my students as well, is that if you're going to be doing like a viscose or a cotton or a denim with a lot of natural sort of fibers in, is to always pre-wash your garment so that it doesn't shrink. There's nothing worse than you are making up your garment, you've made your garment, it fits beautiful, after a first wash the garment starts to shrink unevenly in certain areas and you cannot wear it. So always pre-wash your fabric and give it a good press before you actually lay your patterns onto it. Another thing, I've seen some of my students that, some people are like a natural. Sewing is just something that they can understand. They're falling into it and they're almost like a natural. But then you get others that take a little bit longer and they get so frustrated with themselves, they almost want to give up, but don't give up. It's just a little hurdle that you got to get over. It's just like learning to drive a car. You're kind of so frustrated, you're so nervous, you got anxiety, you're overwhelmed, same kind of feelings. Just breathe. Don't give up, just take it to the next step and just, take a deep breath, have a glass of wine, have a cup of coffee, walk away, come back to the sewing machine and start with a fresh state of mind, but don't give up. Another thing is to always learn new stitches, learn new techniques, look at YouTube, follow new ideas, buy a new different pattern and look at the instructions and give it a go. Just grow all the time, learn more about fashion, more about sewing, invest in books, invest your time in learning, just grow and invest in your knowledge of sewing. You never know where this could be taking you. You could be sewing for yourself and maybe who knows, one day you could be sewing, turn this into a business. If you'd like to turn this into a business, I have got courses to guide you and show you how to get started.